buying a home, you want to think about, when should I contact a realtor? So we recommend you contact us right away. Here's why. We want to connect you with the lender. We want to talk about your needs. We want to discuss your time frame, things like that. There's a lot of different pieces of information that are important in the buying process. So as we talk about things, let's first take a minute about why you want to connect to the realtor who can connect you to the right lenders. So I like to work with a couple lenders that are really responsive to buyers. When we're out looking at houses and you find the one you love, I want to make sure that you have every opportunity to buy it. So by having a local lender that we can connect with, they can write an offer letter, a pre-qualification letter to attach to your offer, which states that you are pre-qualified. You can also do what's called a pre-approval, and that is even a stronger letter with an offer. That's where the lender has seen your assets, seen your bank statements, your income statements for your payroll, etc., and they can go ahead and verify that. So that's really nice. So once you've sent those, they can do a pre-approval versus pre-qualification. So that's one of the things we want to do. Now another one is to get you on the right search. We can sit down and really iron out criteria that you may or may not have thought of. When we set up a search in the MLS, first of all, we're the first ones to get notified because agents put the information there. So you can get a notification as soon as something comes on the market that meets your needs. And we can talk about things such as, do you want a first floor master, second floor master? Do you want a home with a pool? Do you want one with an HOA? All of these criteria we can put in there so that when you're looking for a home and you get notified, it's already pre-screened for you. It basically meets those needs. I find it's really helpful to people with location as well, because what can happen is when you're on the online sites, all of a sudden they're just feeding you other houses that might be of interest to you. And what ours can do is we can cross-reference. And so we put in your beds, baths, budget, etc., that are important to you, but we can also take your work address and say, okay, you want to be within 10 miles of that. And maybe you have a significant other that also is working and you want to make sure that both of you can have a commute that's no more than 10 miles. So we can cross-reference and find that area that's a sweet spot for both of you. So those are just a few of the things we can do to get you started. Now there's some other important things to consider. I like to really take about an hour and do a buyer consultation. And this can be something that we do online through a Zoom call, or we can do it in person, and where we walk through all the buyer paperwork. And it's so helpful to do this before you start looking at houses. We talk about working with agents in North Carolina. And what is that like? Each state is actually different in who we represent and how we represent it and how that's determined. So it's really important you know this even before you go to look at new home construction, or you look at an open house or for sale by owner, etc. I want to make sure you're protected and have the right information in your hands. In addition to that, we walk through the details of an offer to purchase contract. What's included, what's standard, what's not, what are the criteria to consider? Some of the things that are important are due diligence. In North Carolina, we have a due diligence period. And so that's the time where a buyer gets to do their inspections, get their financing secure, anything that's important that is part of their decision-making process, they need to have done during that. So the appraisal's ordered, and we want to make sure that all of those things, sometimes it involves an estimate. So maybe you're going to make an update and say, you know what, to make this house work, I need to add a screen porch because that's really important to me. So I have a budget of $30,000. Can they do it for this house at $30,000 or $60,000, depending on where your budget is? And so we can walk through, get those estimates and things. So we have this due diligence period. What happens with that is you as a buyer write a check. When you go under contract, you give a check to the seller written to them personally. They deposit it in their account and it's theirs to keep. Now, what happens is that during your due diligence period, they have that money on hand. If you choose to walk, you do have the ability to walk for absolutely any reason during due diligence. Not easy for a seller, but it is nice for a buyer. And if you do walk, they keep those funds. And if you do stay with the contract, which happens most of the time, then you can go ahead and have that as a credit to you at closing. So it is taken off your total expense to purchase the home. We also have an earnest money deposit, and that's something held in escrow, and so it's protected, and that's something that's part of your deposit for the home. And we can make that as an initial payment when you go under contract, or you can be another date such as the end of due diligence. So these are just a few things to go through and talk about during the buying process and the consultation initially. I think it's really important to do this, and I hope that you reach out to me to let me know when you're thinking of making your next move in the Triangle. This is Marianne Wilson, Next Home in the Triangle. I'd love to help you.